The Mustangs broke out some new uniforms on Friday night, and now they're going back to a more familiar look. Friday night, it was the new black uniforms with white numbers. Tonight, it is white with light striping across the torso with red numbers outlined in blue. Campbell has uniforms you can see. We'll let you know how well you can see the numbers as the evening goes along. Orange and black vertical stripes with white numbers. Initially, even with the sun directly on them, it's a little hard to see, so we'll see how it goes. In the meantime, we will start with some starting lineups. First, for the visiting Camels of Campbell. Starting in goal, 6-foot junior from Parker, Texas, is number 1, Matt Kaczerinski. At defense, 6-foot junior from Schludern, Germany, number 6, Gideon Betts. At midfield, a 5'10 freshman from Grand Prairie, Texas, number 7, Jalen James. At midfield, 6'2 junior from Nebworth, England, number 8, Ian Reese. At forward, 6'1 senior from London, England, number 14, J.J. Donnelly. At midfield, a 6'1 sophomore from Baka, Ghana, number 15, George Badico. At midfield, 5'7 sophomore from Neuchâtel, Switzerland, number 17, Bastian Oberli. At defense, 5'8 freshman from Sydney, Australia, number 21, Ben Morrison. At defense, a 6'1 sophomore from Liverpool, England, number 23, Michael Barrow. At midfield, a 5'5 sophomore from Dallas, Texas, number 24, Humberto Chavez. And at defense, a 5'11 sophomore from Dallas, Texas, number 26, Dylan Sadler. Head coach of the Camels is Dustin Fonder. His assistants are Jeremy Wisdow and Tom Poole. Now the starting lineup for the SMU Mustangs. A change in goal tonight for head coach Kevin Hudson. It'll be 6'4 junior from Destin, Florida, number 1, Grant Makela. At defense, 6'1 sophomore from Oklahoma City, number 4, Josh Burney. At forward, 6' junior from Oklahoma City, number 7, Garrett McLaughlin. At midfield, a 5'9 senior from Arlington, Texas, number 8, Caleb Smith. At midfield, 5'11 senior from Orem, Utah, number 10, Emil Quaisho. At midfield, 5'10 junior from McKinney, Texas, number 12, Eddie Manjoma. At forward, 5'9 junior from Fort Worth, Texas, number 15, DJ Williams. At midfield, 5'10 sophomore from Dripping Springs, Texas, number 17, Luke Thompson. At midfield, 5'11 sophomore from Dallas, Texas, number 19, Nicky Hernandez. Anchoring the defense in the middle tonight, the 6' sophomore from Leander, Texas, number 24, Talon Maples. And at right defense, 6'3 freshman from Houston, Texas, number 27, Tom Haney. Head coach of the Mustangs is Kevin Hudson. His assistants are Ben Stoddard, Brett Kozakowski, and former SMU goalkeeper Jaime Ibarra. So the two new faces in the lineup tonight, Grant Makela and Caleb Smith, the senior midfielder who's played an awful lot over his first 3 years here at SMU. He did come off the bench initially on Friday night. He is back in the middle of the in the center midfield in place of where Noah Hilt started the other night. And Caleb Smith is one of those guys who we mentioned it Friday night. You don't notice it until you don't have him. He's not very big. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's incredibly poised and controlled, and he's really crucial to the possession of the ball. And he was a big reason why the Mustangs controlled the ball so much in the second half Friday night against Providence and spent the whole, seemingly the entire second half and overtime in front of the Friars' goal. A lot of that was him. So he has earned a starting role for tonight, and we will step aside for just a moment for the playing of the national anthem. We are ready for soccer here at Westcott Field on Pony Up TV. The national anthem has been played. The teams are swapping handshakes. The coaches have done the same. And we are ready for game 2 here at Westcott Field. You may have noticed during the introductions, Campbell College is, I believe, in North Carolina, but a very international lineup. Quick glance at their roster. They have players from Mexico, England, Germany, Ghana, Switzerland, Germany, more England, Spain. Very international side. And talking to Kevin Hudson before the game, he said, this is a good team. They played UIC pretty tight the other night, Friday, in the 2-1 loss. Said they have several good players. Probably their key guy is J.J. Donnelly, number 14. He's the 6-foot senior from London, England. Scored over a dozen goals a year ago. And Kevin Hudson was saying, if you don't pay attention to him, he can cause headaches for just about any team there is. And anticipates he will score an awful lot of goals again this year because he's really an exceptional player. For the second game this year, the Mustangs are breaking in a new goalie. Tonight it's Grant Makela. Kevin Hudson said it had nothing to do with the performance of Philip Michael Hilliard at Friday night. Thought he played fairly well. Neither one of the goals, couldn't have really done much about either one of the goals. They were both very good shots. But this is simply a case of two young goalkeepers trying to fill the gigantic void left by the graduated Michael Nelson. And so they're getting a look at the second option. Coaches like both of them. I think both of them have a lot of promise. And tonight it is Grant Makela's turn. The Mustangs will kick off to start tonight's game. DJ Williams will do the honors for the Mustangs. And with the whistle from referee Travis Haight, we are underway. Nicky Hernandez, short chip shot out to the right to Eddie Munjoma. Sends it along the right touchline to Garrett McLaughlin. Drops it off for Emil Quaisho. Quaisho trying to direct some traffic and find a passing target. Finally comes back to the middle to Nicky Hernandez. Hernandez tried to chip it over one of the Camels to himself and got wiped out, drawing a whistle from Travis Haight. And based on the way he got up, it looked like he might have taken an elbow or a shoulder or something to the side of the face as he came up holding the left side of his face. As it is, free kick for the Mustangs. About 40 yards out, it'll be Eddie Munjoma and Emil Quaisho standing over the ball, discussing their options. Everybody's pretty well jammed right on the 18. And Emil Quaisho breaks into space. Munjoma hands it off to him. Shot by Quaisho. Turned aside by Karazinski. And just over a minute into the game, Emil Quaisho will trot over to the corner flag in front of Moody Coliseum for the first corner kick of the night. A little bit of a new look on that restart. It would be easy to assume that Quaisho would have taken that shot, but instead he took off where there was some open space and had a little room to run on the right side of the box. His corner kick curled up and into the crowd. I don't think that was Karazinski who got a hand on it. I think it was a head by one of his defenders. In any event, cleared out by Campbell. Eddie Munjoma momentarily handcuffed with that ball, but able to get it out wide. Garrett McLaughlin trying to get through to DJ Williams, but he had 4 orange and black shirts around him and simply had no room. Now Campbell coming the other way. It was Bastian Oberle carrying up the right side. Now on the near side to Michael Barrow. Long serve into the middle. Well over the head of Donnelly and into the waiting hands of Grant Makela. George Badico was also in there on an offensive run. Hard to tell which one of those was the target or whether Barrow was just sort of playing it to the space. But as it is, Mustangs coming the other way. Haney started forward, turns and cuts almost 180 degrees back to play it to Makela, and now here's Talon Maples out wide to Bernie on the left side. Bernie's serve blocked down right in front of the touchline by Jalen James from nearby Grand Prairie. And the throw-in comes in, but here comes Campbell the other way. And Grant Makela way off his line as the ball was played into the left side of the box, and J.J. Donnelly was giving chase, and Makela came racing out and slid over the ball at probably 16 yards off the line. If he'd been a step slower, Donnelly was there. Nicky Hernandez looked at Haney on the far side, instead played it the short ball to Maples. Now Bernie all the way across the floor to Manjoma. And that ball bounced right up into Manjoma's right arm. And that did not go unnoticed by referee Travis Haight. So Campbell with a free kick coming the other way. Karazinski, another one of the Texans on this Campbell lineup, just bought himself another 10 yards by throwing the ball forward to reset it. His serve headed out to the right side looking for Donnelly. And Nicky Hernandez was bumped by Ian Reese, drawing a whistle, so SMU will get a free kick the other way. Talon Maples over to the near side to Bernie. Short pass up the left side to Luke Thompson. Took a couple steps across midfield and then back to Bernie. Now Nicky Hernandez. Wide to Haney. And Haney decides to just let things settle and regroup and plays it all the way back to Makela. Bernie up to Luke Thompson again. His return pass over Bernie's head. And Bernie ends up playing it all the way back. He had to backtrack to go get it and played it to Makela, who swung it to the far side to Tom Haney. Haney to Hernandez, flicks it through one time to the center, looking for DJ Williams. Hernandez steps forward, able to intercept that pass but not control it. He deflected out of the bounds. And Dylan Sadler with a throw-in to Donnelly. Donnelly simply launches a high curling ball into the center. Haney headed it straight up, and Grant Makela, reacting well, realized he had taken a step out of the box, used all of his 6'4" frame to go up and head it himself. Had he caught it, he would have been whistled for a handball. Pretty good awareness for Makela, making his first start of the season. Ian Reese swinging it to the near side to Sadler. Short ball forward to Jalen James, able to get around Bernie, but now it's back to James, another centering pass, and this time it's Nicky Hernandez, who was able to get a knee in front of it, knocks it out of bounds, inches away from a corner. So it'll be a short throw-in. And Luke Thompson gets the ball back for SMU by shouldering Sadler off that ball. So Bernie will have the throw-in. Low line drive, sort of a corkscrew throw, ends up on the foot of Emil Quaisho. He flicks it out wide to Eddie Manjoma with lots of real estate. Manjoma carrying forward. A lot of crossover steps. Trying to get around Ben Morrison. Gets a shot off, but he got way too far under that one, and that one sailed over the crossbar, setting up a goal kick for Campbell. Matt Karazinski, the 6' junior from Parker, Texas, tees up another goal kick. His goal kick ends up going just beyond the center circle where it's headed down by Haney. Tracked down by Emil Quaisho. Quaisho trying to get away from Bedico. Now back to Haney. Haney to Nicky Hernandez. Started to the near sideline and then spun back to the right. Drops it off for Haney. And Haney's going to let things regroup. Throw in coming up for the Mustangs. Tom Haney, low line drive. I think he was looking at Luke Thompson on the near sideline, but never got underneath that, and that was easily picked off by Campbell. Caleb Smith out to Tom Haney on the right side. Haney looked like he was going to play it back to Makela again, but instead this time it's Maples in the center of the defense. Over to Bernie. Bernie, his serve a little too much for Garrett McLaughlin as it sort of short hopped McLaughlin, went straight up in the air and ended up coming out of bounds on the near sideline. So it'll be a throw in right in front of the Campbell University bench. Thompson keeps it in bounds, plays it to Nicky Hernandez. And Hernandez sent it back to Haney. Haney wisely just one-timed it straight forward about 30 yards to get away from traffic. And Haney, with under heavy pursuit from behind, took the wise move there and just knocked it out of bounds. Throw in coming up for Campbell. About 15 yards off the SMU end line, staring straight into the sun. High curling serve. And it's way too early to start making any comparisons. But one thing we always liked about Michael Nelson was he's 6'4", long arms, could get up in the air. Grant Makela just went way over everybody. Also 6'4", also long arms. And on soft crosses like that, he should be okay. Here's Bernie. And again, another long crossing serve to Manjoma, just like Talon Maples did so many times Friday night. And Eddie Manjoma just almost made a defender's knees buckle a couple times there. That was Ben Morrison. Manjoma crossed over so many times. You could see Morrison wobble a little bit. But to his credit, kept his feet, forced Manjoma to take a shot that Karazinski was able to get a hand on. Eventually knocked over the end line, and it'll be a corner kick again for Emil Quaisho. Almost 11 minutes gone in tonight's second game of the year for both teams. Each team looking for its first victory. They as each suffered a 2-1 defeat Friday night. On the previous corner, all the players were jammed out near the 18. Now you've got a team picture lined up in front of the goal. And Karazinski, excuse me, sort of hiding behind the group. It's one thing if you have a 6'4" goalie who can see over the crowd. Karazinski didn't have that luxury, but Travis Haight blew his whistle, saw some portion of the contact in there that he didn't like, whistled it against SMU, and so Matt Karazinski will have a free kick, which basically amounts to another goal kick. It's a couple of yards out in front of the penalty box, or the goal box. Haney up and over Bastian Oberle to get ahead on that. Plays it back to Makela. Makela, line drive out to the right side where he finds Eddie Manjoma, who carries it forward across the midfield stripe up to Emil Quaisho. Dribbles through a little traffic, and Quaisho now with a long lateral pass across the field to Luke Thompson. Thompson, nice little crossover move to get a little space. and tried to get a cross that was knocked down, but it didn't go out of bounds, and Garrett McLaughlin came racing over to chase it down for the Mustangs and ended up getting forced it out of bounds off of a Campbell defender's leg, so it'll be a throw-in for Garrett McLaughlin about 3 yards from the corner flag. You know, for the last couple of years, it was Bryce Clark and Jared Rice who did all these throw-ins. McLaughlin's got a pretty good throw. The other night, he had some high ones. He also had some sort of line drives that had some pretty decent distance. Talon Maples gets a head on it. It gets flicked through, and there is Eddie Manjoma to tap it in. Eddie Manjoma will never have a shorter shot than that. That ball probably went about a foot before it crossed the line. Someone else got a head on it between Talon Maples and Eddie Manjoma, but it is Manjoma with his first goal of the year, giving SMU a 1-0 lead. For Manjoma, he had such a good game the other night against Providence, racing up and down the sideline, sort of tying defenders in knots. He had a ton of long, dangerous crosses. Last year, he had just 3 assists. I believe that's his first goal at SMU. He had 4 assists as a freshman, 3 assists last year. I don't think he had a goal. So for Eddie Manjoma, nice time to have his first goal of his career, giving the Mustangs a 1-0 lead as we close in on 14 minutes into the game. Low curling serve. Ian Reese gives chase, able to get back to it. Sent back in, and there's McLaughlin just clearing it out of danger's way by knocking it into the offensive half of the field. No white jerseys within 30 yards, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was just get it away from trouble. Campbell going the same way, long vertical passes, and that's what the Mustangs expect from Campbell. They are a very direct, very vertical team. They're going to play balls over the top all night and try to let their forwards run onto it, and they're doing some of that already. Speaking of forwards who can run onto balls, here's DJ Williams collecting a pass up the sideline. Oh, and he was looking at Emil Quaisho, and had he gotten his pass away just a step earlier, Quaisho would have had some room. Quaisho then trying to flip the ball over a defender, but DJ Williams stopped his run around the corner, and so the ball ended up rolling harmlessly out of bounds over the end line. Quaisho looked at Williams and sort of had his hands up saying, "Why'd you stop? Keep going, finish that run." And that's something that just comes with more time spent on the field together, and that'll be ironed out as the season goes along. Karazinski, high goal kick, almost to the back of the center circle. Knocked forward by Ben Morrison, but cleared over to the side to Eddie Manjoma. Manjoma back to Haney, over to Maples, who decides to give Josh Burney a try coming out the left side. Nicky Hernandez out wide to Manjoma. Manjoma, direct pass ahead to Emil Quaisho. Quaisho tried to flick it back with his heel to Manjoma, but was in an offside position when he did it. And the flag went up, whistle blew, and Campbell University will have a free kick. You know, Karazinski probably takes a little longer than Providence's goalie, Colin Miller, who got a yellow card the other night. And for those of you who are listening, Chris Petroselli, the SMU women's coach who hops on the broadcast with us when he can, he was speculating that maybe the yellow card came out because of intentional delaying by by Providence. And in talking to some people on the field, that's exactly what happened the other night. They were being told to slow down, take your time. And so referee Brandon Gardner the other night was all over it and tried to sort that out. We have another corner kick coming up for the Mustangs. It will again be Emil Quayshow. And this time the Mustangs will go back to the crowd just inside the top of the 18 look, with only DJ Williams standing in front of Karazinski. And Karazinski's shoving Williams in the back, enough so that it drew the attention of referee Travis Haight. He blew his whistle. Karazinski just shoved him again, and DJ Williams has his hands out saying, what do I have to do here? And just like that, DJ Williams, you could argue, should get an assist on that because he was clearly distracting Karazinski. Emil Quayshow's corner comes in. Talon Maples gets ahead on it, and the Mustangs are up 2-0. Talon Maples, the big sophomore defender from Leander, as it comes over to the bench to accept congratulations from his teammates with a huge smile across his face. Obviously, this early in the year, you're saying first goal of the year for just about everybody. And for Talon Maples, his first goal puts the Ponies up 2-0 on their guests. Talon Maples, just like Eddie Manjoma, that is the first goal of his career. Eddie Manjoma getting ready for a throw-in on the far side, and you may be able to see or even hear head coach Kevin Hudson imploring his guys to get forward. There were 7 players, including goalie Grant Makela, behind Manjoma when he was getting ready to throw, and Kevin Hudson didn't think that was quite enough options to get the ball forward. Travis Haight blows his whistle for an SMU foul, so Campbell will have a free kick about 6 or 7 yards behind midfield on the far sideline. Line drive right to the top of the box, headed out by Caleb Smith and tracked down by Luke Thompson before it gets to the near sideline. Thompson started upfield, instead played it into Nicky Hernandez. DJ Williams up to Thompson again, has Jalen James on his back. Nice play by James, picking the ball free from Thompson. Ian Reese started forward, had Nicky Hernandez closing in on one side, or in front of him, and DJ Williams coming from the left, so he got rid of it. Ben Morrison carrying forward. Off to George Badico. And Badico was trying to get around Manjoma and just had no room. But Campbell able to keep possession. Sadler trying to connect with James, a little off target. And right to Talon Maples, whose clearance was even more off target. It bounced into the bottom of the fence on the other side of the track. So throw in for Campbell. Dylan Sadler trying to use a pick play from Humberto Chavez. Josh Burney now getting ahead to it. DJ Williams flicks it forward. There's Nicky Hernandez giving chase with Humberto Chavez standing in front of him. Quayshow raced by Hernandez on an overlapping run. And Hernandez saw Garrett McLaughlin running on a diagonal run through the box, tried to flick it through, and he hit Travis Haight right in the back. And the referee just looked at Hernandez and apologized. He's still apologizing. And there's nothing you can do about it. Hernandez just smiled and laughed it off. But it did look like McLaughlin had a little bit of space there, so who knows what the end result would have been. A couple of Campbell players looking for a whistle there as Eddie Manjoma knocks it down with his chest, but it was very close to his upper arm. Ball goes out of bounds, and so Campbell will have a throw-in. Just under 24 minutes remaining in the first half. Line drive flicked up and at the goal, and there's, to say that's the save of the year through, what, 110, 120 minutes is an understatement. Grant Makela was backpedaling a little bit, got off balance, and still threw one of those long arms up there, got a hand on it, and knocked it over the crossbar. Nice stop by Grant Makela, setting up a corner kick for Campbell. Another low line drive, curled into the box. Emil Quaisho flips it up in the air, collects it himself, and then just knocks it out about 40 yards. Caleb Smith collects the serve back in and runs right through a challenge from Ian Reese. And the Mustangs will now have their first substitution of the night, as Akeen Shackelford, the JUCO transfer and the goal scorer from Friday night against Providence, he checks in, giving DJ Williams a rest. One of the things that Kevin Hudson said before the first game, which I expect will be repeated on these airwaves more than once, is it's a very nice problem to have when you have three legit strikers who can score. And if you're a defender and you've just been chasing DJ Williams and Garrett McLaughlin around, and now Akeen Shackelford comes in off the bench, that almost doesn't seem fair. He is a matchup nightmare who's going to cause some problems for several defenses. Nice flick by Sadler trying to connect with Jalen James, but Talon Maples is there. And once again, Talon Maples erases all doubt by launching it into the seats at Westcott Field. Ian Reese right between the legs of Luke Thompson. And Jalen James eventually tracks it down. Thompson broke that up. Ball comes back out to Bastian Oberle. Oberle looked like he was thinking of dialing up a shot from about 25, but instead played it out wide. Now he has it back with Emil Quaisho giving chase. And Caleb Smith able to track it down and split two Campbell forwards to get the ball out to Emil Quaisho. Manjoma thought about Caleb Smith, but there was a lot more room going back to Tom Haney. And Haney pulls out his driver, sends it long to Garrett McLaughlin, kept it in bounds. Now back to Emil Quaisho to Nicky Hernandez in the center circle. Hernandez makes Donnelly chase him for a moment, plays back to Maples, then to Bernie. And Bernie with a long lateral serve. I don't know if he was looking at Eddie Manjoma, who was about 10 yards in front of that, or if he just sent a pass that was way too tall for Caleb Smith. Either way, it went out of bounds and now goes out of bounds again, so Campbell will have another throw in as we close in on 20 minutes left in the first half. Tom Haney climbs the ladder to go up over Donnelly. Got a head on it, but not enough to direct it forward. And Maples sends it into the track on the far side, setting up another throw in for Campbell. There's Shackelford all over Michael Barrow in the back of the defense of the Campbell defense. And there's a giveaway that leads to a break into the box by Jalen James. James is looking for a whistle. Did not get one, and I don't think deserved one. It looked like shoulder-to-shoulder contact, but it was pretty sloppy in the back, as it looked like a bit of miscommunication among the defense. Actually, pretty smart play by Talon Maples. He got tangled with a player, and had he tried to plow through, he might have gotten whistled for in the box, which would have led to a PK. So the end result of all that is that Bastian Oberle is teeing up a corner kick for Campbell in the southwest corner of the field, and Grant Makela and the rest of the players are staring into that sun. Oberle's corner Donnelly tried to jump and one-time it out of the air. He missed. So it hit Emil Quaisho instead, went back out of bounds. We're going to do it all over again. Another low line drive. Quaisho just bunts it out with his left thigh. Out to Humberto Chavez. Knocked down by Garrett McLaughlin. And the serve into the offensive third. Campbell is begging for a handball as Nicky Hernandez jumped up in front of that cross by Bastian Oberle. And I think what Oberle was claiming and a couple of his teammates were claiming was that it hit Hernandez's leg and then bounced up into his arm. Either way, Travis Haight didn't see it that way, so there was no whistle. Throw-in comes into Shackelford. Sadler tried to clear it to one of his teammates, but Nicky Hernandez was there, turns around and plays it back to Tom Haney, out wide to Munjoma. Again, a lot of room on that far side for Munjoma. Took a few steps forward, then stops, plays it back to Haney. Haney to Nicky Hernandez in the center circle with two of the Campbell Camels paying attention. Maples back over to Haney, and Haney's got a little room to carry it forward across the midfield line. Haney to McLaughlin, drops it to Quaisho, quickly out wide to Munjoma. His cross deflected up and over. Karazinski, nice job getting up and getting a hand on it. I don't know that it would have gone in, but it was close. And Karazinski, not as big as Grant Makela, but he got up in the air to get a hand on that. And the Mustangs will have a throw-in on the near side. Just under 17 minutes now remaining in the first half. Garrett McLaughlin coming over to the near side to do the honors. And you've got three players within about 8 yards of the goal. Wonder if he'll go with the lower corkscrew kind of throw. Maples got a head on it, but not much behind it. And Campbell able to clear that out. Luke Thompson sends it back in. But right into the arms of Campbell goalkeeper Matt Karazinski. He pauses for a moment to let the traffic clear. Throws it down and serves from about 20 yards off the line. Knotted back out by Bernie, but here's Ian Reese settling for Chavez. Over to the far side to Morrison. Jalen James trying to retain possession, gets bumped as he hands off a little bit of a pass. It gets cleared away. Eddie Munjoma tracks it down on the far side. Munjoma, long ball intended for Shackelford. Shackelford with two Campbell players on his back. And right in front of the linesman. The ball goes out of bounds, and the linesman held his flag up, issuing a throw-in to Campbell. And from all the way across the field, you could hear Shackelford express his, shall we say, disagreement with the call. And considering he was about 2 feet in front of the official when he expressed his opinion, maybe a bit of a risk, but no foul, no card, no nothing. So throw-in coming up, it'll be Tom Haney, or excuse me, free kick coming up. And Haney just sets it down, so it'll be Emil Quaisho. And the 6'3" Haney drifts forward to join the offensive attack. This will be another one where the Mustangs have 6 players within about 3 or 4 yards of the line at the top of the 18. So it is completely jammed. Quaisho, high curling serve, and Quaisho has his second assist of the night. Garrett McLaughlin ran onto that, jumped, and did some sort of a half scissor kick. And I believe Karazinski got a hand on it, but it ended up in the lower right corner of the net. And just like that, the Mustangs enjoying a 3-0 lead with 14:23 remaining in the first half. Substitutions coming in for the Mustangs as Christian Borum and Noah Hilt check in. Caleb Smith will head to the bench, and as thanks for scoring the third goal, Garrett McLaughlin gets to take a seat. McLaughlin, who led the American Athletic Conference in goals last year and is the preseason Offensive Player of the Year for the conference this year, has his first score of the night, or of the year. One thing that's been kind of notable after each of these goals, the first guy to get back to the bench for congratulations is Luke Thompson. He hasn't scored the goals. He hasn't assisted on the goals, but he's the first one over to the bench to jump into his teammates' arms to celebrate. Nicky Hernandez gets a head on it, clears it out, flicked by the back of the heel by Quayshow. Another heel from Borum to Quayshow, back to Borum. And Borum, nice ball as he flicks it on the outside of his foot looking for Shackelford. Shackelford got there, but his cross back was too high and too long. Thompson tracked it down, tried to get a cross off, hit it into the face of a defender, got it right back. Now Borum in the box. Basically has it stolen by Luke Thompson. Thompson was trying to get out of the way, tried to jump over it, and nearly landed on the ball. And that little miscommunication led to Campbell coming the other way. Here's Donnelly one-on-one with Talon Maples. And that is what Talon Maples, that's one of the things Talon Maples brings. Maples was step for step with Donnelly, timed it perfectly, and threw his left leg out there to block that shot. But then Talon Maples got whistled for a foul as he tried to chase down the bouncing ball, jumped up, and in the opinion of referee Travis Haight, he jumped a little too aggressively into the back of J.J. Donnelly. So Campbell will have a free kick about 2 yards outside the top of the 18, maybe 8 or 10 yards wide of the right goal post. Mustangs with a three-man wall of Hernandez, Hilt, and Borum. Grant Makela directing traffic on that. And here comes the jailbreak on the other side. Quayshow gets a head on it. It gets sent right back in, but there's Tom Haney to head it out. Akeen Shackelford tracks it down, started upfield, and then realized he was going 1-on-5, and so he hit the brakes. Played it back to Haney, and the Mustangs will regroup. Probably the most dangerous scheduled or planned chance that the Camels have had. They did have the one cross earlier that got deflected that Makela was able to reach up and deflect over the top of the crossbar. But that was a dangerous place to have a free kick. Haney to Nicky Hernandez in the center circle with Ian Reese giving chase. Reese able to knock that pass down, but it went right back to Hernandez. Over to Bernie, and now back to Hernandez. Hernandez splits a couple of Campbell defenders, gets the ball through to Borum. Borum with a shot, but right into the hands of Matt Kaczynski. Borum really had something on that one. For someone whose reputation centers around his ability to cause chaos and pester defenders and that kind of thing, he was maybe 23, 24 yards out, and he unloaded on that, but unfortunately it was right at Kaczynski. More substitutions coming in for Campbell. It is number 9, Alex Igionu, number 20, Gabe Parrish, and number 25, Alamu Mercer-Miko. For the Mustangs, Lane Warrington. And number 16, Knut Allender. Allender is a 6'1" freshman from Notteroy, Norway, and dealt with a bit of a foot injury during preseason camp. Did not play in the opener Friday against Providence, but the coaches are very high on, well, actually both of these freshmen, but Kevin Hudson said he was very pleased with the way Warrington played Friday night against Providence. Said he did not look like a freshman playing his first game, didn't see nerves. Certainly has a lot of speed getting up and down the sideline. And Allender, big, strong, sort of a holding central midfielder, at least at the moment. Smart possession guy, makes all the right passes, and can bring a bit of a physical element. Allender is one of a couple of players whose weight is not listed on the roster, but just looking at him, he looks like one of the stronger guys on the team. Noah Hilt with 4 orange jerseys closing in on him, hands off to Bernie and back to Talon Maples. Maples to Hilt, who now plays it out wide to the right to Tom Haney. Haney, chip shot over the top off the chest of Akeen Shackelford. Shackelford able to shield the ball away, drops it to Harrington, cuts behind one defender, cuts behind another, drops it off for Hilt, and Hilt tried to one-time it to Allender, who had not taken a step forward, and the ball is given away to Campbell. Parrish plays it back to Mercer Miko. Mercer Miko tried to cut in behind Allender to get toward the left or the right touchline, but unable to do so. And the ball ended up rolling right into the feet of head coach Kevin Hudson, setting up a throw-in for Luke Thompson. Mercer Miko plays it back to Ian Reese, who drops it for Parrish. Parrish over the top, looking for Donnelly, too tall. And Talon Maples able to settle it with his thigh. One step, hands off to Allender. Allender bumped from behind by Igionu. Certainly not anything malicious. It wasn't a very hard foul, but enough to knock him off balance. Allender gets it back, left-footed serve. He was looking for Warrington on the far side, and I think he just mishit it. Parrish trying to flip it outside of Thompson, probably to himself, but he got away from him. So Thompson with a short throw-in back to Bernie. Bernie almost got a handball there, but didn't. Settles, drops to Talon Maples, who swings it to the far side to Haney. Haney to Hilt, back to Haney. And those two will play catch for a moment in the back end. Now Hilt over to the near side to Bernie. Bernie started outside, then cut back in. And trying to dial up another one of those long serves across the field. Manjoma's no longer over there, so it would be to Lane Warrington. Was a little bit off target, though, but Campbell was nice enough to play it out of bounds. Now Hilt swinging it across to the near side to Luke Thompson. And Thompson settled it, then lost it to Parrish, who gets it back quickly from Ian Reese. Thompson trying to give chase. And Bernie with a nice job stepping in front of Donnelly to head that ball away for the Mustangs. Thompson goes down, looks at referee Travis Haight, who just waves his hand saying, "Get up." No whistle. Allender to Shackelford on the near sideline. Shackelford takes off with Ian Reese giving chase. Shackelford around the corner. And Shackelford, I think, wanted a corner. It looked like Reese did get a foot on it, but I believe the ball was already out of bounds when he did. And the two players had a word for whether it was for each other or for the officials. Travis Haight went over and put an end to that pretty quickly. 6 minutes left in the first half. SMU leading Campbell 3-0. And Matt Karazinski with a goal kick just across midfield. Eventually knocked down to Tom Haney. Haney to Hilt up to, there's Lane Warrington. And if you saw Friday night's game with Providence, it's not good seeing people doing these cartwheels. That looked a little bit like Philip Ponder when he did his cartwheel flip before he exited the game the other night. Again, for those of you who weren't here, who weren't logged in at the very start of the game, the Mustangs are encouraged by what they've learned so far about Philip Ponder. He is not playing tonight, but it is believed and hoped certainly that it is a strain, not rather than anything structural. But again, he is being given the night off tonight. Josh Bernie, high curling serve into the middle, and Matt Karazinski goes up over everyone, snatches that ball out of the air, and 20 players will start to drift south. Karazinski with a long line drive, knotted out by Bernie. Mercer Miko starting and stopping to stay away from Noah Hilt, able to do so momentarily. Now cuts behind Hilt again, gets a pass out wide to Donnelly. And Talon Maples is there not only to stop that run to the corner, but to play the ball off of Donnelly and out of bounds. So the Mustangs, with 4 minutes left in the first half, will have a throw-in. 3-0, SMU leads Campbell in the second game of the year for each team. Throw in by Bernie, headed out of bounds by Campbell's Gabe Parrish. It's kind of an odd-looking play. He was about a foot inbounds, and the way he turned his head looked like he was trying to aim out of bounds. Short throw by Thompson, flicked on by Shackelford, unable to track it down, though, and Campbell comes the other way. Parrish, long ball looking for Donnelly. Over Donnelly and Talon Maples, but Maples able to regroup and get himself situated and headed it back to Grant Makela. Tom Haney on the outside starts forward, pulls the ball back, and plays it to Makela. 3 minutes now remaining in the first half. Makela back to Haney. Carries forward, tries to connect with Noah Hilt. Mercer Miko able to get a foot on that and played it off of Hilt out of bounds, setting up the Campbell throw-in. Haney knocks it forward, trying to connect with Wyatt Priest, who's now in the game. And got it in the right direction, but it was played out of bounds by Humberto Chavez. Tom Haney now all the way back to Makela. Makela and Haney. Haney looking for an outlet pass, finds Josh Burney on the near side. Burney to Allender in the middle. Allender had his sights set on Lane Warrington on the far side, but came up a little short. Donnelly trying to thread the ball through a couple of defenders to hook up with Alex Igionu. Mustangs turn it away, but here's Ian Reese as the Campbells try to rebuild with 90 seconds to go in the half. Warrington came racing out, didn't get to the ball, but did enough to disrupt Ben Morrison. Now Warrington headed the other way. Starts and stops, steps over the ball, drops to Allender, up to Priest. Priest on the right side, gets across into Warrington in the box. Stood up by a couple of defenders. And Campbell comes the other way. It is Mercer Miko starting and stopping in front of Noah Hilt. Nice job by Hilt standing him up without fouling him. Played all the way back to Reese. Now Ben Morrison on the far side. Quick give and go, gets the ball back and sends it to the center to Reese. Reese looked out wide but had a keen Shackelford drifting over to try to intercept any pass that way. So instead he went with the more vertical pass. And for the second time in a couple days, we have a ball over the fence as Tom Haney was trying to send that long, and it just squibbed off the side of his foot, bounced off the track, and went over the fence in front of the sand volleyball court. And if we're not careful, we're going to have another ball bounce over. Final 5 seconds of the first half. Throw-in comes in. Talon Maples gets a head on it. Canute Allender clears it. And we are at halftime. 45 minutes in the books. And the Mustangs have to feel pretty good about the first half. 3-0. SMU leads Campbell. The teams will retreat to the locker rooms for a few moments. We will pause as well. We will be back shortly on Pony Up TV.